Good afternoon, YouTube. Rob here. Today I want to talk about the Columbia River Knife and Tool Company Woods Chogan. This is a Tomahawk. It's relatively inexpensive. It probably comes in near the same price point as a comparable cold steel model. I got this one because I'm not a huge cold steel fan, but it is heavily moddable. People do mod this. I've modded it a little. When you first get this, if you look at the Amazon reviews or any other review on YouTube, the main complaints are that when you get it, the head here is machine pushed onto here, like pressure pushed, and it splinters the stave of the handle here. The handle gets all these splinters that come up. So the best thing you can do is just take it off and try and sand that ridge down. Obviously you can see it's not perfect. I've done that, but it's still not perfect. I might have to take off a lot more material to get it perfect. And the reason it does that is because for some reason they don't have the presence of mind to bevel the inside of the top ring on this, and that's something you can do easily with a half round file. Just file it down. And I've done this, and after I did it, I played around with the axe. We were throwing it around, we were chopping some stuff, and it's still pushed up so far that it's splintered again. So, you know, it's just you gotta keep going until you get this thing smooth enough where it does not cause splinters coming off the handle. So anyway, this is a requirement. You're going to have to file down. And it is very fast filing work here. This is differential heat treat. The blade is very, very sharp, but this part is not. It's very soft. So it shouldn't take long for anyone to file this down. This one, you can see it's still kind of right angles. This one comes at right angles, but I didn't really work on this much because, you know, this one's not so important, the bottom. Comes with a hammer pull on the back that weighs a ton. A lot of people don't like that. They cut this off when they're modding it. They also cut the handle down from its original 19 inches because it is, if you're wielding it one-handed, it is kind of unwieldy unless you choke up. Let's move on to the head here. When you buy it, they offer a sheath for it, or a blade mask, or an axe mask for it, and it comes with a part that covers up the blade, a part that covers up the hammer pull, and a part that wraps around here, and it was all just riveted together. It looked kind of janky, and the reviews weren't very good, so I just went ahead and took some veg tan, and I made my own little axe mask here. Yeah, this is small, it's tight, it's the one thing I do need to say though is that if you're planning on doing this, although this looks real narrow, you're going to need a double welt here. This is 8 to 10 ounce veg tan, but I needed 2 welts in here, otherwise it would have split out. It's a pretty thick head, and you're going to have to put double welts in if you really want to do a mask like this. But yeah, that wasn't very difficult, and I just put some edge coat on, and it looks pretty spadoinkle, to be perfectly honest. I'm happy with the mask for it. So other than that, the handle comes with a kind of a polyurethane shellac on it that's real shiny, and I took that all off with a sander, and then I sanded it down, polished it up. I used some wet dry sandpaper, and then I put on, I stained it. You probably can't tell that it's stained, but I used some real light stain, and then I put on, rather than using linseed oil or whatever, boiled linseed oil, I used this butcher block conditioner. It's mineral oil with vitamin E, beeswax, and carnauba wax. So it's fairly water repellent. If I drop some water on here, it would beat it off, but it does take like 8 or 9 coats before it all sinks in. And as long as you're prepared to go through the work, and again, this is something you can get at Home Depot. This is not a specialty item. They sell this at Home Depot right next to the Howard mineral oil, so you can get either one. And I use this for most of my wood treating rather than linseed oil, but that's personal preference. So I may modify this further. I burned some inch marks into the back here with the soldering iron, and yeah, I may end up, it's 19 inches, that's the standard factory length. I may buy another one of these just because this one came so fucked up, but I may cut this off, but I don't know. I want to demonstrate how it works in its factory configuration. And I've got those cherry trees in the back, so I'll take it back there and I'll see if I can get the GoPro to work on this and just demonstrate how it works. Oh, by the way, I reground the original profile. I took the shoulder off the left side because I'm right-handed, and I do want to use this if I need to. I want to be able to use it for carving. So I took off the shoulder here, so it's nice, and it's almost like a chisel grind here. And I left this one pretty much the other side almost factory. I sharpened it up, but it's paper cutting sharp. It's not shaving sharp, but it will it'll do the nail test here pretty easily. I don't have a piece of paper right here, but it does the nail test. It's sharp, but I'll take it back to the back and I'll show you what it can do. Again, the Columbia River Knife and Tool Company, Woods Chogan. So here we go. Okay guys, before we get started, I want to show you this cherry. This came off like a 50-year-old cherry tree. It was at least 40 years old. And it's so green that even this thing, as sharp as it is, barely cuts into it. It kind of bounces off a lot of the time. It's very green wood, and it's very, very hard wood. So here's another piece of the trunk, and I just want to demonstrate 19-inch handle. If I'm holding it right here without choking up, then it gets very tiring very quickly. And of course I could choke up. I'm going to lose a lot of power that way. Yeah, it's not nominal here. So I think the reason why they give you this whole 19 inches is so you can wield it with two hands. And then you get significantly more leverage on it here. And like I said, this is some very, very hard wood. Fruit trees are hard, with the exception of possibly banana trees. But yeah, if I was going to use this as a one-handed tool, I'd probably want it to be a little bit shorter. But as a two-handed tool, it 19 inches is really just the right length. And that's what these tomahawks are for. They're not for splitting wood, they're for chopping wood. And let me see here. I do have This is a crab apple that just came down. Let's see. So it's a fairly formidable chopping tool. You know, that's not a huge branch, but it'll this thing will do the job. So I'm kind of hesitant to mod it any further. I think the reason why they put the hammer pull on here, although it's superfluous because I can hammer nails without it, I think this just gives it a little extra weight so that you get a little bit more oomph on your swings when you're chopping. So that's it. CRKT Woods Chogan. Here we go. Okay, guys. Final thoughts. It is a. If you like to modify your stuff, this is the tool for you. It's heavily moddable. In fact, it requires that you mod it right out of the box. Not only is it dull as shit, that's to be expected, but these this upper ring comes at a vicious sharp right angle that just eats and bears into the wood, and you're gonna have to shave that down with a file. Then the possibilities are limitless. You could cut this off, you can make it shorter, you can leather wrap it, you can put a guard up here, you can change the profile completely. It's a solid one heavy piece of metal. It's hammer finish. You can probably see the light here. Hammer finish, but yeah, it's if it's either between this and the cold steel. I haven't played with the cold steel, so I can't speak for it, but in my experience, Columbia River makes a little bit higher quality stuff than cold steel. And if you want to buy the sheath that they sell for it, it's probably fine, but it just didn't look good to me. I didn't like the fact that it was only rivets connecting the pieces, and I didn't like that it was 3 pieces. This thing is extremely light. So last word, if I do further mod this, I'm probably not going to change the length of the handle, just because I like to be able to wield it two-handed, and I can choke up on it. But if I do mod it, I'll probably just cut off this hammer pull. So I mean, this thing is so heavy, it's just not a backpacking knife. It's not a this is not something you could really, I don't know, the hammer is just unnecessary. It just gives you a little bit more weight behind it, which is good if you're chopping. But if you're using this as like, hey man, I want to bring the lightest weight thing I can, I'm going to take the handle out and just throw the blade in my pack, you do want to get rid of this hammer on the back. So please YouTube some other videos for this. Like I said, this one's kind of for the uninitiated. If you haven't seen the Woods Chogan before, you're welcome. Otherwise, this is all old news. If you like these kind of videos, guys, I don't monetize them for the most part. I only monetize them after they've hit 10,000 views. Subscribe and like this, and leave a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks, guys. Peace. I got more coming up. Peace.